Bills trade talks are escalating. A new report from Sports Illustrated reveals a wild move that would change the entire dynamic of the offense for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. A new report is suggesting that perhaps the Bills are in on a former first-round wide receiver that could be a deep threat for them that they desperately need. Before we get into that news, just a reminder. About 84% of you guys are not subscribed yet to the channel, so please hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a lot, and it'll give you guys some more news, so you will hear when the biggest moves happen as the trade deadline approaches. Well, we've got some big news on our hands, as a Sports Illustrated report says that the Bills are getting trade buzz as a fit for Saints star wide receiver Chris Olave. Now, Chris Olave has been a very hot topic in the streets of NFL circles the past couple of seasons because he has been stuck on a Saints team that has not had a solid quarterback really since Drew Brees retired. Chris Olave has had some injury history, and a lot of that stems from some horrible passes that have been made and directed his way. The New Orleans Saints have really struggled this year, and with Spencer Rattler at the helm, they're likely going to be tanking to potentially draft a new quarterback or to wait for their second-round rookie Tyler Shuck to develop and become their quarterback of the future. Regardless, Chris Olave could potentially be cut at the end of this season if they don't pick up his fifth-year option, or he would be an unrestricted free agent after next season. So this is a potential move that the Bills could make, one that would kind of resemble the Amari Cooper trade they made last season to get a guy that creates separation, that is a potential deep threat down the sideline, and just a little bit of help for Josh Allen. Reports right now are saying that Chris Olave would likely take a second-round pick in order to be traded. I am a little bit skeptical on that, considering that he has had a long laundry list of injuries. He hasn't exactly been a star wide receiver as of yet, although he has certainly shown flashes kind of similar to Stephon Diggs, although I think at the point that Diggs was traded to the Bills, he had a much better resume than Chris Olave has now. And we'll throw up some of his season stats this year. He has been targeted heavily in a Saints offense that has been throwing the ball the sixth most of any team in the NFL. Part of that has just been they've been losing games, and they don't have a great running game either. Just one touchdown for him, 342 yards, and about 8.8 yards per reception, 18 first down catches, which is something that I think could be a little bit more intriguing than you may look at when you see these numbers. But he's making catches in big situations on third and fourth downs, and that is what Josh Allen has been looking for. Now, another number on here that catches your eye is the age. He's just 25 years old, won't be 26 for quite a while, and he has potential to bring what the Bills have been looking for years now. And we bring up this quote from Sean McDermott back when Amari Cooper was traded to the Bills last season, and he said, "Having the ability to get separation, I think, just adds to our flavor of offense." That was, of course, talking about Amari Cooper when they traded for him from the Browns in 2024. But the same rings true, especially with Josh Palmer down with an injury. They think that is just a day-to-day injury, but the Bills are in need of a separation artist. They have Khalil Shakir, who has been their best separation artist, but for whatever reason, they really didn't target him in that Atlanta Falcons game. Video to come on that in the near future. But what Chris Olave brings to the table is that element of separation. We can bring up some of the advanced metrics that Chris Olave has garnered this year, and On average, when the ball gets to his hands, his target separation numbers are 41st in the NFL. So nothing crazy, not all that great, but these numbers can be deceiving because it has to do with a scheme a team is running. Chris Olave is on a team that normally the opposing defenses are expecting pass. So when Chris Olave is running his routes, the defenses are knowing, okay, this is probably going to be a pass. With the Bills, they are running a completely opposite scheme where teams are normally expecting run, and that is what should be the difference maker for the Buffalo Bills on offense. Back after the New England Patriots game, Sean McDermott said this: I thought overall we want to get more separation when talking about his wide receivers. That stayed true against the Atlanta Falcons. Nothing changed. Josh Palmer looked like he was going to have a breakout game before he got injured on what should have been an illegal hip drop tackle by the Atlanta Falcons. And that is potentially big for the Buffalo Bills, who need some separation here. They need some separation from their receivers that they have not been getting. And that is something that Brandon Beane is going to have to look for coming up here in the near future. Let's take a quick look at the game log for Chris Olave. And my apologies, we're going to go right here and pull up that game log. So you see the target numbers are absolutely out of this world. 13, 10, 14, just 6 against the Bills for whatever reason, but he did get a touchdown in that game, and then 11 and 10. So Chris Olave has been a critical part of this offense, and it shows that he's able to get open at least to some degree because he's being targeted. Whether the throw gets made accurately, that's another question, but it isn't a thing with drops. Chris Olave has just one drop all season, and it came on a potential touchdown against the New England Patriots last week, where it was it was a ball that should have been caught, no doubt. It hit the tips of his fingers, but you have to imagine Josh Allen is going to give him some much better balls, and the Bills would be able to have him dialed up for some better routes as well. Now, another question is, what can Brandon Beane do other than Chris Olave? Are there other options out there for him? And I've compiled a list of some guys that I think could potentially be one of the options for the Buffalo Bills. One of them being Chris Olave's receiver mate for the New Orleans Saints, who would be a rental. He's a unrestricted free agent after this season, and that is Rashid Shaheed. Now, at first, when I heard these reports of Chris Olave, I thought to myself, I think that the Bills are, if they trade for Olave, they're going to be trading for the wrong guy. Olave has some injury history I wasn't so sure about, and after looking at it, I kind of realized that Shaheed actually has some worse injury history. He has played in fewer games over the last 4 seasons than Chris Olave has, and overall, Olave is the better player. One thing that I like about Shaheed is he is a much better deep threat, or at least has been in the NFL in his young career. He has caught a number of deep passes from a number of quarterbacks, whether it's Derek Carr or Spencer Rattler. But after looking deeper into it, I do think Olave would be a better option, although Shaheed may come at a smaller price. If the Bills want to make a lot of moves in this trade deadline, which I think they certainly need to, especially on the defensive end, they may opt for a cheaper option like Shaheed, or they may opt for another option in Jakobi Meyers, who Jakobi Meyers is a separation artist, but is not a deep ball threat necessarily. One benefit of Jakobi Meyers that I like, that he brings to the table, is that he is a former Patriot. The caveat to that is that he was a former Patriot, but it was not for the same coaching staff, so he may not bring you any sort of advantages when it comes to knowing the playbook or anything like that, because he was not in that system. He was not playing with Drake May either. So that kind of scratches that benefit. Now, I do think Jerry Jeudy's a potential option, although I'm not super high on him. He has injury history as well. He has clubhouse culture issues as well, from what we've heard. He's been very inconsistent. I think Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Jacoby Myers would be better options. Now, the very best option that the Bills could possibly bring in, but an option that I don't think is likely at all, is actually Chris Olave's teammate in college, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is, in my opinion, a top 10 wide receiver in the entire NFL. I don't think it can be disputed that he's top 15. There's no doubt in my mind he is one of the most talented receivers. The question is, will the Jets trade him? And I don't think they will. I think this is a guy that the Jets need to lock up long term. They need to give him a top-tier contract right now if they can, because when you eventually draft a quarterback, you want Garrett Wilson to be there to help that quarterback develop. Now, this is not Jets Digest. I'm not going to go into what I think the Jets should do. The Bills should at least make a call to the Jets and say, I know we're division rivals. I know, we may be in a different window right now, but are you guys listening to Garrett Wilson? Because this is a guy that I would trade multiple first-round picks for. Would I rather trade for a top-tier defensive player for multiple round picks? Yes, absolutely. But Garrett Wilson is certainly that caliber when it comes to one of the top players in the NFL. But overall, Brandon Beane has a massive decision that he needs to make, and I think he needs to make it before Sunday's games, because if you're able to bring in Chris Olave or one of these receivers, you can make sure that they get their bye week. Or at least part of their bye week, and have a Sunday to rest. You don't want to risk having one of these guys go out there on Sunday or whenever they play and getting injured, or even taking a beating and dealing with those bumps and bruises. So Brandon Beane is on the clock. He needs to make a move, whether that's for a receiver that Sports Illustrated seems to think that the Bills are in on, or a defensive player. Brandon Beane is on the clock, and he needs to make a move right now. Thank you for tuning in for Bills Digest. I'm Josh Schreiber. We'll see you tomorrow for yet another video. Thank you, guys.